What's the most out of line approach you've gotten from somebody saying, you've got to sign for us exclusively and we'll pay you, you'll rule the world if you only give us an exclusive signing?
You know what we're going to say. MTV. MTV.
Oh, what a surprise! We get to hear the MTV part. I do. You've got to tell your MTV story,
Oh,
Elizabeth.
MTV. That was so mean. We're all excited because they contacted us. They found us through the Delhi poll, right, Matt? The Delhi Best of thing in Chicago. So they contacted us and said, hey, we want to license your music. We're going to use it in our TV shows as background music during shows. We
So
thought that
maybe Jersey Shore.
So actually funny, well, yeah, so exactly. um, we had a song on the UK version of that show, but so they sent us a contract and we had some lawyers look at the contract and there were concerns about the contract that essentially it would give them rights to our music for free, for forever, to place wherever they want to. And there was some language in there about third-party licensing, which I never entirely understood, but made me really uncomfortable because it seemed like they would then be able to license our music to whoever they want, and again, it's for free and for forever. So we wrote back and said we had some hesitations. We didn't even ask to get paid. We just said, could we have a limit on how long this contract lasts, and could we get rid of the third-party thing? And they wrote back maybe once or maybe returned a call, but the second we had all balked at changing any terms of the contract, they were done with us. They would not return our calls, would not return our emails. So that was
How dare
the
you
end of that.
question? How dare you question this
Yeah.
offer from MTV?
Yeah, and it's I'm sure it's a fact where because they're MTV, there's there's a gazillion bands who will do it for free and for forever. So they, since we are objecting, they were kind of done with us. They knew that they could find somebody else who would be into it and would not have any objections.
Yeah, I mean, this is one of those issues where it's like we don't want to sound like we're complaining too much because we realize that there's a bunch of bands out there who would love to have these first world problems, so to speak. Like I wish MTV called me to rip me off.
Yeah.
So we understand that aspect of it, but in the end, I think the answer is trust me, you don't.
Well,
yeah,
I'm trying to fix my thing.
You guys aren't primarily complainers. You're not saying the world is out to get you, but I think the perspective is an interesting one because as a band that does remember the days of the pail of paste and the flyers, right, and yet has taken advantage of these tools as they've come on. Would you say that the potential for scams or for frustrations or aggravations is more or less than it was?
it's more, right? It's gotta be more.
It sure seems like it's more. Because there's, I don't want to say, there's a tendency to want to chase the next, potential big thing. I'm not talking about bands. I'm talking about the next potential online or digital sort of avenue that's going to help us, get our record out there. And it used to be there were only a few avenues to chase. It was sort of like, there were always a bunch of record labels, but when we first became a band, I remember doing press kits, putting them together, and sending out a lot, but it was like you had a list.
Are bands sharing information about these digital sites in the same way?
No, I don't think so. I think nobody knows how. It's so hard to know when you're being screwed, and I feel like in the old days, if a label was going to approach you, there would be a point where you would probably have some paper to look at, and you would be able to tell if you're being screwed or not. And I realize a lot of times people didn't look at the paper and would just go ahead and sign it, or I know a lot of times it was just handshake kind of deals too. But it seemed like there was a clear point in time where you were, either getting screwed or not. Now it seems like every corner you turn around, it's a new site, and you have to click, I accept all the terms below, and if you click on the terms, it's pages and pages that you can either sort through or not sort through, and I know nobody does, but it's just every time you turn around, it's another site and another, thing that could potentially be screwing you over, but really at the end of the day, they're probably going to turn into nothing, and even if they turn out to be a famous site, like the odds that you're going to be one of the people who is famous on it are small, so you just click and hope for the best.
So it hasn't been just web scams. I love the story that you shared with me, Elizabeth, about this. What was it? Fandana Festival.
Oh yeah.
Is that what it was called? Fandana?
Yeah.
Tell us about that one.
Yeah, well, I think Matt does more of booking, so he's going to know more details. But basically, it's come play our festival and pay us money to do so and have the privilege to play our festival. Or sell XYZ tickets in advance. Or, come play, pay X dollars, and you'll make it up when you sell the tickets yourself, kind of.
Yeah, and you don't find out about that right away. It's like they'll actually hit you up out of nowhere and invite you to come play a festival, and it's in a cool city, and and it sounds like kind of an interesting deal. And then by the time you get to the third or fourth email, they start to bring out the details, and there's a small fee for. It was like, are you kidding me? Like, we're gonna drive, we're gonna hit the road and come pay to play there. I mean, this reminds me of Sonic Bids, which is a site that I would say.
Sonic Bids.
Listen to ties light up. Yeah, Sonic Bids is pretty awful. Yeah, they're sort of the kings of. Well, I'm not going to call it pay to play, because pay to play is sort of a different meaning. But they, for South by Southwest and CMJ and stuff, it's sort of like, hey, if you're, South by Southwest and CMJ have always been about unsigned bands, but these days they're mostly populated with bands that have already gotten a little bit of attention on Pitchfork. So it's like, if you're really an unsigned band and you really don't have a foot in the door, it seems like there's no option. And so here comes Sonic Bids and says, we're going to choose this many bands that we're going to put into CMJ, and it's a mere $10 or $15 or $20 or $25, to submit. And you have to fill out this application and everything and pay the money. And there's a fee even just for having a Sonic Bids account as well. You have to pay like a fee every 6 months. And for a while, they sell it pretty good. It's a well-designed site, and they're set up. You have like an inbox of all of the gigs that you're being considered for, and like what your status is, and you're kind of waiting for the red X's to turn into green check marks and stuff. And I'm not saying, what did we probably dropped? Maybe $300, probably something like that over the course of a couple of years, like applying for gigs and some festivals and stuff. And in the end, when we played CMJ or we played South by Southwest, it always ended up being through somebody who thought our music was cool, the way you're supposed to end up playing those things.
Yeah, somebody who put together a Chicago showcase and was like, yeah.
Yeah, but just, I'm not sure if this is true, but they sort of make it sound like they are the gatekeepers for, a good 10% of the booking at South by Southwest, and unless you're already like going to be on a label showcase or something, they make it sound like if you're a nobody and you want to play, you got to go through them. And I wish, I probably should have done some research before this conversation, but there were some numbers that were released, and it was like, the number of bands that have applied for these slots and the number of bands that end up getting them, and, it was like 10,000 bands applying for like 100 spots or something like that.
Well,
making money hand over fist, although these days I don't hear as much about it, so hopefully they're on their way out.
It does sound like a shakedown. And even if you only invested $300 over a couple of years, let's go back to that. Your month. For the month of October, you made $23.74.
Right. So I'm pretty sure $25 to apply to South by Southwest. I'm pretty sure that was the fee. So you easily, you spend that in 5 seconds on Sonic Bids. And I guess I understand why South by Southwest. If they have that many bands that want to play there, I can see the appeal of having some other company weed out a lot of the bands for you and just send you the ones that sound professional or whatever. I guess I get that, but
but that's what they charge hundreds of dollars, for the players with badges is to go through.
It's true. It's true. Yeah.
Let's not cry for people who work at South by Southwest listening to music all day.
No, it's true.
Well, I would say even South by Southwest is the least of my complaints with Sonic Bids. It's like so many, come play this college show, come play some festival you've never heard of, come get this.
Yeah, a lot of festivals just sound like they were just made up for Sonic.
Made up, yeah.
They're just created, and they're just sort of, and then a bunch of bands apply, and then everybody makes, a few $1,000s on the applications, and then they put together a little lame festival of like the 7 bands that made it through the process, and I don't know, and we spent a lot of time updating our Sonic Bids profile and stuff. There was a while where I think back in their early MySpace days and stuff where people started to realize that, it's expensive to send out physical press kits, and it is, so it's like, I'm going to have this sort of online press kit, I'm going to have an online, what do they call it,
EPK.
EPK, yes.
Yeah.
Yeah, you're certainly familiar, Jim. And And I'm sure to some degree you'd prefer to have links, as opposed to a mountain of CDs every day that's falling on you.
I don't want any more mail ever.
Yeah. So
you can send me a Christmas card, but I don't want any other mail.
Yeah, I get that. So the EPK, it's a pretty promising thing, but Sonic Bits turns it into this entire business. You know what I mean? This entire business, it's just everybody trying to find ways to be a middleman. You know what I mean? And just pick up a little cash on the way between the band and the fan.
We
I
gave
don't know.
up Sonic Bits a couple years ago. We haven't done anything with it.
We haven't used them in a few years, and I don't think our career has has been any worse off as a result. We just gave up on trying it.
We got here by asking about the festival. Have you dealt at all with Lollapalooza?
Well, a little.
We tried, but because they have the BMI stage, right? No,
That's right.
And because we're signed up for ASCAP, they said you'd have to unsign up with ASCAP and sign up with BMI.
Right. I mean, the big stages, Bud Light stage, PlayStation stage, whatever, those are populated by bands that have national management labels, PR, whatever. So for a band, a Chicago band to get on there, you pretty much have to get on the local stage, and the local stage is the BMI stage, and ASCAP happens to be the folks that represent us. So we've never really had a nibble. We've tried, we've reached out, and and we've spoken to some people, but it's never really materialized into anything. I think we'd have to get a lot bigger first. But I mean, we'd certainly love to. That'd be fun. I mean, we've paid as fans to go, a few years when the lineups were good, so it'd be nice.
So the local stage at the festival in the city park, you have to sign up to the particular rights organization, or you're not eligible.
I think so, unless maybe if you play hip hop music, or if you play electronica. Maybe then I think you have a different stage for that, Perry's Tent or whatever. But yeah, otherwise, if you're a rock band and you're local, I think you got to play the BMI stage, and I know a lot more ASCAP folks than BMI folks, so that seems cool. But